Welcome back, folks. I'm your trusty presenter, Henry Snotson, and you are watching Snot, the bi-weekly information about the Snot League. Let's begin. Round 3 kicked off with the Feywild Sparkles invading the Nehekaran Sands to take on the Dobkins. Seriously, can someone give the Dust Goblins a break? That's the second time they've been ambushed before the round even officially starts. Yet, the Dobkins weren't about to let a rude awakening catch them off guard. Their fans rallied together for a fundraising effort and managed to hire none other than the infamous Ivan the Animal Deathshroud. From the moment the whistle blew, this towering undead brute went to work, carving his way through the Sparkles lineup. The scorching desert sun played havoc with the visitors, and Luana, perhaps inspired by the Yeti from a prior match, attempted to claw at a towering Ushabti. Unfortunately, her manicured claws were no match for its stone hide, and she ended up in the infirmary. Shortly after, one of the harpies followed, wings snapped and morale flagging. The Dobkins inched their way forward, cautiously aware of the Sparkles' agility. But in their focus on positioning, they forgot about their opponent's hypnotic tricks. Cesari fumbled the ball under pressure, and the first half ended without a single touchdown. The second half began with the Sparkles clearly trying to avoid any further contact. But even so, Ivan managed to send another player to the medic's tent. Despite mounting injuries, the IGN worked together to rapidly transport the ball downfield, beyond the Dobkins' reach. The Dust Goblins can only wave them goodbye with their skeletal legs pumping furiously. Shustra, however, knew there was no time for stalling as the Dobkins closed in faster than anyone expected. The Sparkles' dwindling roster couldn't hold the line, and the Dobkins capitalized, eliminating 2 linewomen on the restart and punishing Metyao with a brutal foul. The referee, probably blinded by the Nehekaran sun, completely ignored the incident. So the Gravedigger quickly removed the body from the pitch, and show can go on. In a last-minute dash, the huffing and puffing Cesari finally reached the end zone, equalizing the game just as the whistle blew. The Dobkins pulled off an unexpected result, halting the Sparkles' impressive win streak. Few would have predicted such resilience from the Dust Goblins, but they've proven they're more than just skeletons and constructs. They're contenders. As for the Sparkles, they now have an extended break to regroup, recover, and hopefully regain some of that early season magic. Until then, folks, remember, never underestimate the dangers of Nehekaran Sands, and for love of Nuffle, let them sleep a little. Another game, another shocking twist. The Telesnoobies entered their match against GKS Shambani Supremes, armed with a tried-and-true strategy. Relentless violence paired with the lightning-fast skitter stab-stab. The monkey men of Shambani may be accustomed to rough-and-tumble play, but this was a level of brutality they'd never encountered. The buzzing of chainsaws seemed to awaken some deeply buried trauma in the Supremes. Perhaps memories of deforestation and loggers invading their jungle homes. Panicked, several of the apes abandoned their positions, scattering to avoid the chaos. Even when the gorillas managed to land a hit on the tiny imps, their blows often failed to penetrate the surprisingly sturdy armor of the diminutive chaos players. The carnage didn't escape the referee's attention, who eventually began pulling some Telesnoobies players from the game, lightening the load on the Supreme's coach. However, by that point, the damage was already done, and the monkey men could hardly mount a competitive response. Amidst the chaos, Skitter Stab Stab shone brightly. Skaven are not typically known for their teamwork, but today he broke the mold, selflessly sharing the ball with the smaller imp players to help them score touchdowns and gain valuable experience. It was almost heartwarming. The Telesnoobies claimed another decisive victory and are climbing the group a leaderboard with joyful glee. However, their gleeful chainsaw antics are likely to attract the ire of eco-activists, who may soon stage protests alongside the fuming GKS Shambani Supremes. Stay tuned, folks, because as the Telesnoobies rise, so too does the drama. Another streak comes to an end as BC Bonecruncha lose their winning momentum against Isha's Revenge. But was it really such a surprise? The mighty, brutish ogres found themselves helpless against the elusive grace of their elven opponents, swinging wildly at the fairies as if swatting at pesky mosquitoes. While the ogres raged and flailed, the elves calmly orchestrated a textbook perfect game of elegant blood bowl. Their elven charm worked wonders, too, leaving the ogres distracted and their poor noblars utterly defenseless. The small green linemen became little more than chew toys for the relentless elves. Not even Zorn Urkrag, the mighty Chaos Dwarf, could live up to his promise of leading a strong offensive. Sure, he played his part, but let's just say expectations were a little inflated. Despite all this, Billy Bobby, one of the team's standout ogres, did manage to power through the chaos and deliver the ball for a touchdown. Unfortunately, the effort consumed far too much time and energy for Bone Cruncher to even dream of an equalizer. And so, the moral of this match? No matter how big or tough you are, when elegance meets brute force, it's hard not to be swept off your feet or your game. If there's one constant in this unpredictable round 3, it's the unrelenting streak of misfortune plaguing Judges of Dread. The Spartans stepped onto the field yet again with a skeleton crew, still reeling from their dwindling roster. And then came the deep-sea lurkers, with their towering 3-meter crabs and nimble aquatic teammates. The Spartans, already outmatched in numbers, had no way to counter the lurkers' overwhelming size and power. The game quickly turned into a feeding frenzy, figuratively speaking, of course, leaving judges scrambling just to survive.
Help me!
While the judges' iron will deserves recognition, it seems they're learning the hard way that even the strongest Spartan discipline might not be enough against claws, shells, and sheer oceanic brute force. Looks like in Blood Bowl, sometimes the seafood eats you. It seems grim gemstones have found the perfect counter to the fiery rage of half of nothing. Their stoic, unshakable nature. What's their secret? Simple. When faced with angry elves, don't fuel the fire, just outlast the storm. The game began with the half-elves bringing back fan-favorite baker Cindy Piewhistle, whose sugary delights were once again part of their strategy. Unfortunately for Cindy, her welcome party consisted of a crushing blow mere seconds after the opening whistle. The elves' rage flared momentarily, but the earth elementals absorbed their aggression like a stone wall. Without the emotional fuel to sustain their fury, the elves instead revealed their softer side. A side very susceptible to rock-solid punches. Grim Gemstones capitalized on this with a steady advance, taking an early lead. Cindy eventually regained consciousness, only to be unceremoniously escorted off the pitch by the referee. Meanwhile, the elves' attempts to find an opening in the Gemstones' impenetrable defense turned into a display of graceful but fruitless passing plays. When a rare gap appeared in the Elementals' formation, the elves surged forward. Just as their ball carrier reached scoring range, a sudden gust of wind sent them tumbling and flung the ball out of bounds. The culprit? Amethyst, one of the wind elementals allied with the gemstones, making an unexpected cameo. Even so, the half-elves pressed on. A spectacular pass from Adeline Ulawaja looked set to tie the game, until their teammates spun wildly trying to escape the grip of Garnet and Aquamarine, ruining the play. In the final moments of the game, amidst rapid attacks and counterattacks, an elven blitzer finally broke through to score the equalizer, ending the match in a thrilling 1-1 draw. What's the takeaway here? Well, for starters, maybe Cindy should invest in armor instead of frosting. And as for the half-elves, next time they might want to leave the pirouettes to the ballerinas. Intergalactic kobolds faced off against the fiery might of Weatherton Inclements, and once again, Joseph Moranian worked his magic, literally and tactically. The veteran coach seemed entirely unshaken by the intense flames of his opponents, orchestrating a performance that left the crowd dazzled and the Inclements frustrated. The turning point came early, when Eruption committed a brutal foul on Frog, one of Moranion's troglodytes. While the enormous lizard was carted off, Joseph's calm demeanor didn't waver. Why? Because by then, his team was already leading 1-0. Justice came swiftly, with Eruption being shown a red card and banished to the sidelines, where they either burned with shame or just literally set the bench on fire. Who's to say? Despite their fiery spirit, the Inclements couldn't rekindle their hopes. Things went from bad to worse when Wildfire, one of their most aggressive players, lost a one-on-one clash with a pint-sized kobold. That moment was a spark that ignited a pathway for Marunion's squad to secure not just a second touchdown, but a decisive third, sealing the game with style. Witchy, and we know it, part ways with their coach in a storm of controversy. Both sides are pointing fingers, hurling accusations of poor preparation and tactical blunders. Who's right? Who's wrong? It seems we'll never know, but what we do know is that this drama handed murderous kangaroos a free win on a silver platter. The big question now, will the Elven Witches find a new coach before the next round? If not, they risk forfeiting any remaining chance of advancing in the league. The stakes are high and the pressure is on. Because in Snot League, there's no room for magical mishaps. It seems the Border Princes never quite made it to their match against the Iron Wolves. But why? Was it fear of the chaos-worshipping barbarians or something more sinister? Well, according to eyewitness accounts, the answer lies in a very convincing Kurgan diplomatic envoy that arrived at the prince's camp the night before. Claiming to represent a neighboring realm, these cunning Kurgans invited the princes to a lavish banquet, complete with exotic wines, roasted boars, and even a troupe of jesters for entertainment. Little did the princes know that the jester routine was just a distraction to keep them occupied while the Iron Wolves quietly sabotaged their war horses and hid their gear. By morning, the princes found themselves with no transport, no armor, and absolutely no way to get to the stadium. The Kurgans, meanwhile, strolled onto the field, claimed the win, and dedicated it to Tzinch, their god of change and trickery. Who knew the way to a prince's defeat was through his stomach? And that will be all for now. Stay tuned for more. May Nuffle bless your blocking dices, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye!